Brought to you by Eco Alkalines, environmentally responsible batteries, cat5.tv/eco.
We're joined tonight by Richard Collins, who's the product manager at Ubuntu Mobile. And a big announcement this week is, of course, that Canonical Ubuntu has made its way, or is making its way, to smartphones. So very excited to have you here, especially it's a very timely time, Richard, and I know that you're very busy. Thank you for coming on the show.
No problem. Thank you.
So this is a very exciting thing. Big long-term fans of Ubuntu, such as myself, we've known for some time that this kind of thing was going to be happening. Not really sure what was going to be happening because everything's kind of been under embargo and pretty secretive as far as what exactly is coming as far as feature sets. So very excited to see now some screenshots and actually know that this product is on its way. Love to hear from you about the development process and where things are at as far as Ubuntu Mobile goes.
Okay, so the announcement that took place this week was, as you said, the new user interface to allow Ubuntu to run on smartphone hardware. So we've taken a very specific approach in terms of how we want to introduce our system to work on smartphones. Many people might remember last year, for example, at MWC, we launched an Ubuntu for Android product, which allowed the Ubuntu desktop to run directly from smartphone hardware, allowing users of particularly powerful smartphones to dock that smartphone, and then they could get access to the full Ubuntu PC experience over a desktop monitor. And that was very encouraging in terms of our development work, mainly because what we're now focusing on is a system which allows not only a very rich user experience to run on conventional smartphone hardware, but also the ability to allow that same desktop experience to run on the more powerful hardware that can also be manufactured.
Wow. Now, does this shift the focus from Ubuntu for Android to this actual Ubuntu Mobile product, or is this a separate product altogether?
No, it doesn't shift the work that we did around Ubuntu for Android. This work is absolutely in parallel. So, we have a number of really interesting discussions taking place with handset manufacturers that are very interested in incorporating that particular feature on their higher end Android hardware. But
Awesome.
this is something that now we're going to market with our own embedded smartphone platform. It's a natural fit for us to include that feature with our work.
Very good. Now, we're all very familiar with the duopoly between Apple and Google. How does Ubuntu and Canonical fit into that? So that when somebody says to me, "Okay, well, what type of smartphone do I go with?" What is different about the new Ubuntu Mobile that's going to make me say, "Let's look at Ubuntu on the smartphone as opposed to Android or Apple's iOS"?
Well, fundamentally, what's unique about what we're doing on the smartphone is its user experience. So it has a very distinctive look and feel. There's a number of particular user experiences that we've engineered to create a very rich user interaction. So, for example, we have a way in which we allow the user interface to work based purely in terms of edge swipe. So whereas with more conventional sort of established smartphone user experience, such as the Android and iPhones, etc., there's a very specific way in which users have to interact with services, and we've taken a different approach in terms of how we enable that on the smartphone platform. And and I guess the best way to show that is to demonstrate it. And I've got a device here in front of me. If you want to, should we give that a go?
Yeah,
and see
that'd be great.
See if it comes across.
And
okay.
What comes to mind as you're talking about just changes in the interface itself is the whole Ubuntu Linux for human beings, and that push to be an easy-to-use operating system. I can see that transcending to the mobile platform as well. So very excited to see how this has all come together. So, yeah, bring it on, man.
Okay. So, is that looking okay?
Yeah, we can see that well.
Okay. So this is the sort of welcome screen, the home screen that we've engineered. So this is a particularly unique sort of introduction, if you like, in terms of it being a reflection of the user's own services that operate on the phone. And this one is representing the number of tweets that have been sent and received throughout the day. And this can be adapted by the user to include any number of things such as emails, SMSs, talk time left, those sorts of things. But it's what we've designed as being a particular unique infographic, if you like, that's very reflective of the way the user uses their services on their smartphone. So one thing that Ubuntu users will be very familiar with is this here, which is the launcher.
So we don't actually have a lock screen here, because I'm looking for...
So the lock screen will effectively...
it's a little different.
There isn't a lock screen, as you say, in terms of the conventional way in which people might understand that.
Sure.
So the way to actually unlock is... effectively to use a swipe to the from the right, and then you've got access to a home screen there. But if we just go back and just access the welcome screen, the other thing you can do is effectively get immediate access to a whole range of applications. So the Ubuntu launcher there, which is a familiar part of the Ubuntu UI. Allows you to instantly gain access to a whole range of services.
Awesome. So what's to stop somebody as far as security goes? It looks like I can get into the phone with no password or anything. Is that just because you don't have a password set, or what is there as far as security goes to, if I lose my phone, to lock that down?
So yeah, there will be an element of security in there. So there can be some password protection engineered, but for this particular stage right now, this is the demo, and this is what we're introducing to the industry, and you know, and this is what will be available at CES this week as well for people to come along and interact with directly.
Very good. Now, what's the hardware that we're looking at? I mean, you mentioned about being able to run on Android hardware. So, what, like, can I take my Android tablet and install this on it, or what's the plan with regards to that, or do I got to go out and buy new hardware for this?
So the plan is to work directly with handset manufacturers. So they will develop and design and build hardware specifically to run Ubuntu on smartphones. The hardware that I just showed you is a Galaxy Nexus. I mean, we chose that because it's a very open platform. It has all the relevant hardware drivers that also will run Ubuntu. So the approach there has basically been to take an available device that we can quickly work on and able to show the stage we've got to right now in terms of our smartphone development.
Great. How does now Ubuntu has really put a push toward taking the desktop and making it a part of the cloud, and cloud being Ubuntu One or what have you. Does Ubuntu Mobile factor into this architecture as well?
So yeah, Ubuntu One as our personal cloud service is an embedded feature of the smartphone itself. So that particular service will ship as a standard feature within the smartphone.
Very cool. Now I've got, just as far as my devices go, I've got my Ubuntu computer, which is a desktop computer, Ubuntu installed. I've got I mentioned my Android tablet. I've got my iPod Touch 4th Gen that I use in my pocket for checking email and stuff. I'm constantly going from platform to platform in order to access my various services. So for someone like myself, that's not such a bad thing, but for a novice user, that can get a little tedious, almost difficult in order to understand how my email on my desktop relates to my email on my smartphone, because everything is so different. With this being Ubuntu, and that I've got Ubuntu on my desktop, and now being able to potentially put Ubuntu on a tablet and a smartphone, how is the interface going to be relative from platform to platform?
So the interface will cover the full family of devices that run Ubuntu. So your examples that you were giving there in terms of needing the same services to be readily available across a different range of devices when running on Ubuntu is straightforward. There's much less complexity potentially for the user in terms of having those same services running on a desktop and then being able to access them and interact with them in exactly the same way on say on a tablet or TV or smartphone. So from an engineering perspective, what we've actually achieved is we've created a single user interface that will run on the full family of devices that support Ubuntu. So that's particularly interesting for application developers, for example,
right.
Because it means if they're developing an application for a desktop, which has equal value in terms of a smartphone, adapting that application to run on both devices is very, very straightforward for the application developer, and that's a very important element of what we're introducing.
That sounds. I mean, that sounds great, because I think that's the way things are going. And I mean, you're at the forefront of technology and seeing advancements before we, the consumers, do. But realizing that everything does seem to be going the way of the touchscreen. But I'm still trapped. I'm still trapped at my desktop computer. I go to work and I sit down at my desktop computer. It would be ideal if my interface was similar or the same as what's on my phone, what's on my tablet, and then I'm not having to relearn things as I go. So especially when new devices come out and things like that. Speaking of app development, Richard, just on that along that line, this far into the smartphone game, I mean, here we are, how many years into having iPhones and the Android devices and everything, and they're so the market is so saturated with those devices. How are you going to appeal to app developers, and what kind of apps are currently available? And the big question is, this far in, how are we going to see the same level of apps available for Ubuntu Mobile, which are currently available for other platforms? Because that's a big selling feature for a lot of people, because people who don't care about Linux versus Mac OS are going to say, okay, well, what can the phone do?
Yeah.
So what, where does that leave the development of apps and from a consumer perspective?
So, well, first off, Ubuntu already has a very healthy ecosystem of application developers. Obviously, that work has been focused on desktop applications, but nevertheless, as an organization, we're very experienced and have been very successful in working and engaging with application developers on a community basis. And so we will continue to do that and expand our work to include our focus on mobiles.
Yeah.
So we've got we've got a good history there and a good standing in terms of application development. The other area of interest is, there's a lot of attention around web applications and HTML5 and all those sorts, and we're embracing that too. We see that as very much an important ecosystem in its own right that we want to embrace as well. So any application developer that's focused on HTML development and is building really interesting web applications, those applications will run on Ubuntu.
Very good.
And if particular applications that are HTML based want to generate a slightly deeper user experience for their applications, then we can offer a certain level of system integration as well for those web applications, just to give that application a really native feel in terms of user experience.
Now, is that a process that's already laid out and in place, or is this something that is coming? What comes to mind as we're talking about HTML5 and the ability to create web apps is the fact that here at Category 5 Technology TV we have a web app, and that's how we're able to distribute our show on the mobile platform. So we have an actual mobile website, and that loads as an app on iOS and Android very similarly. I mean, with iOS you can drag it onto your home screen. With Android you can put it on the dash, and it loads up through the web browser, basically. So
exactly, yeah.
For someone such as ourselves, what kind of process? I mean, I'm taking a developer perspective now instead of a consumer perspective. But what kind of a process is there in order for me to get that integration? Do I have to go through an application process, or?
So the process is established in terms of how you would want to work with this and publish that application, and that's very available right now on developer.ubuntu.com. So there's a lot of information there right now which people can go to and instantly engage with us. You're right in terms of a standard web application. It's the capability of the browser, and our browser will support that web app. Alongside every other sort of enabled browser to support HTML5. What we can also offer is, for example, the developer can engineer the same web app to be treated as almost as a native application of Ubuntu. So, for example, that application with its icon can sit on the launcher that I showed you just now. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing is reducing the independence associated with the browser itself. So the web application will operate completely independently of the browser.
Right. Okay.
So it's not going to be completely dependent on the browser being open, the browser running. The web app itself will effectively have its own window management resources. It will look like it's an independent application. The users can switch between that and other applications that are open. So what we're offering, particularly in terms of web application development, is the ability to allow developers to make a real native experience around that web application.
Okay, so now I'd like to get back to speaking about what the end users are going to see, but just still on the developer front, is there going to be any kind of HTML SDK or something for us developers to be able to use to create apps that look like they're part of the Ubuntu mobile system? Will there be something in place?
There's a developer preview SDK available right now on ubuntu.com/go mobile. That particular focus right now is about engaging with more native application development. So we have a core set of applications which are running right now. Yeah. We have a very particular design that we want to use to embrace new application developers. So, for example, we've got a QML toolkit, which we're using to allow people to develop applications that provide a really rich user experience, something that an HTML5 web app simply isn't in a position to deliver right now. And so we're taking a dual approach in terms of the range of applications and the types of application developers that we want to work with.
Right.
But yeah, I would encourage people to go to ubuntu.com/go mobile and see the information that we've got laid out there to see just how can they can engage with us today.
That sounds fantastic. I'm excited to think that we'll be able to actually launch an app on the Ubuntu mobile platform. That's very cool. So beyond that, I mean, you're at CES this week. So can people come and take a look at the devices at CES? Or?
Absolutely, yeah. So our main focus at CES this week is the launch of the smartphone platform. So we've got a lot of people there with a lot of devices that people can come along to the stand and come talk to us about it and interact with it and tell us what they think. I mean, it's a great opportunity for people to come along and see it in the flesh.
Very good. So where are we as far as how soon can we get? I mean, that's going to be the question on every end user's mind. How soon can I get this? Because it's an early teaser, and
it is. Yeah. So we've announced because we want to set in motion the whole time frame, which is targeting availability at the beginning of 2014. That's when we believe we can see these devices come to market. What we're doing right now is we're in deep discussion with industry partners, handset manufacturers, and carriers.
Yep.
All of which we need to make quite a bit of progress between now and the end of this year before we can firm up some proper timeframes as to when the hardware will be available. But yeah, in terms of when people can expect to see shipments, it's going to be about a year from now, which yeah.
So early 2014 kind of time.
I would say that, yeah.
Very good. Back just quickly about apps and things. Is there somewhere that users can find out what apps are going to be available? Do you foresee, for example, I mean, I think about things like Skype being available on multiple platforms. Is that something that you foresee being available on Ubuntu Mobile as well? Not necessarily that one app, but are we going to see the same apps coming across to your platform as well?
From the desktop, do you mean?
From other mobile devices, competitive.
From other mobile devices. So yeah, I mean, there's a number of different areas we can address in terms of enabling a whole range of applications that run on other mobile platforms to run on Ubuntu. So there's a number of different options that we're investigating, as I say, and. But yeah, that's absolutely an objective for us, is to make as many applications available as easily to run on Ubuntu. So yeah, that's very much part of our focus.
Well, that's excellent. I'm glad that that's a focus. And so for the end user, I mean, it's important to understand that we are very early as far as from an end user perspective as far as the apps go, but that. This is under development. It sounds like going to be ready in about a year's time for us to actually pick one up and start playing with it. So, very exciting stuff, and hope that CES is a great time for you guys, and certainly an exciting time to be making an announcement like this, and that's going to be all the buzz. So, this has been kind of in the back of Canonical's mind, I believe, for several years, to be working toward the mobile platform. Almost, I think back in 2009 when I was talking to Mark Shuttleworth on the show, it really came up that he was visionary as far as where he wanted to take Ubuntu. And here we are. It's 2013, January, and he's actually seeing that dream come to fruition. And so, congratulations to Mark and to Canonical and the entire development team. It's an exciting time, and really exciting to see where this is going to go over the next, once you've launched and everybody is able to actually get one of these. I'm excited to see where it's going to take not just Canonical and Ubuntu, but Linux in general. I mean, this is an exciting time for you've become huge players over the past 5 years and plus, and one of the leading kind of desktop and now you're working onto the mobile platform as well. So very exciting stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, as you say, it's been an ambition of Mark and Canonical for some time to move Ubuntu into touch-based form factors, and the announcement was generated enormous positive response. So I think a lot of what has been a particular interest about what we announced is obviously the user experience, but also about the openness of what we're doing as well. This will be a completely open platform, so and we want to work with the community to make sure that they've got early access to as much code as possible. So even though I said that there was a time frame associated with hardware around 2014, that's geared around working with sort of handset manufacturers. But before that, there'll be I can see people rooting their Android devices, and here we go. Right? Is there going to be source code available in advance that people could start playing around with that kind of stuff? There will be source code in advance. Yeah. Fantastic. Richard, thank you so much for joining us here on Category 5 Technology TV tonight. CES, where can we find you? Do you know where you're at? Oh, God, I haven't memorized the exact the booth location. If folks could go to the main website, there is... it's there on the front page, and people can come and see us, and please do, because it's a really exciting, uniquely designed smartphone experience, and we'd love to show it to as many people as possible. I'd love to get my hands on it. All right, Richard, thanks so much for being with us. Okay. Have a good one. Thanks, Robbie. Cheers. Category 5 TV is a production of Prodigy Digital Solutions and is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 2.5 Canada. Thanks for watching.